You're listening to Conflict Radio on the Conflict Radio Network. Greetings and welcome to Conflict Radio. Today is August 27th, 2020, and we are coming to you from the Rocket City, aka Huntsville, Alabama. Today we're going to have Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio on. He's the creator and host of Canada's Spaced Out Radio, running Monday through Friday at spacedoutradio.com. You can also catch his broadcast at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. A former radio journalist, Dave graduated with a diploma in broadcast communications from one of Canada's top broadcasting schools, BCIT, in 1998. Dave then spent nearly 10 years in radio, mostly working in sports, before leaving the field to pursue other interests. Now, we're going to talk to Dave about a lot of different things, and a lot of different things I'm curious about, so I hope you enjoy it. If you're hearing crashing and stumbling in the background, we have gotten a new little kitten named Doc Holliday, and you know how kittens are. They get in everything and knock everything over, and they're not the most graceful cats in the world. So hopefully we can keep the kitten knocking things over to a minimum during the show. So, we're just going to get right to it. We'll be right back with Dave Scott right after this. Well, welcome back to Conflict Radio. We're with Dave Scott of Spaced Out Radio. Dave, how you doing?
I am good. Thank you for this opportunity to chat with you.
Man, it's a real honor to have you on. And just throwing out there for everybody, Dave already told you, but we've got quite the thunderstorm going on here as this hurricane gets closer to where I am. But I think we're going to get through it just fine. So if you hear the thunder, that's what it is. Now, Dave, I brought you on because I wanted to talk about your show. Me being a podcaster, I guess, and I've been listening to you for a long time. I know you started your show back in 2014, November 30th, 2014, I guess? Does that
I remember
sound about
it well.
right? What was your first show?
My first show back then when we started Spaced Out Radio, it was only a 2-hour show. I had no idea 6 weeks previous to that there was this thing called Blog Talk Radio, and there was all of these podcasts out there. When I left terrestrial radio in 2007, I walked away from radio for good. I was so disheartened by my career choice that I just had a real bad taste in my mouth about radio. And when I walked away for good. And then all of a sudden, when my own experiences started in 2011, after a few years of that going on, I was convinced by a good friend of mine, Johnny Enoch, to start Spaced Out Radio. And I'll tell you, I was so naive to how many different podcasts and radio shows out there that there actually were. You know, I mean, I've never really been an internet savvy kind of guy. And so when we started it, I really thought I was one of the only ones. Little did I know there's probably about another 5,000 to 10,000 of them out there in one form or another, whether it's Blog Talk Radio, Mixler, Spreaker, YouTube, you know, whatever it may be. And it's just one of those things where if I would have known, I probably wouldn't have started it. And probably our success that we have had in growing this to one of the top players in the field of paranormal genre is due to my naivety that we actually could get this going. So, you know, it's been a little bit blissful. It's been a little bit hard, but you know, we're almost 6 years in, and I'm just still continuing going strong.
Now, you host the show 5 days a week, but you also have weekend guests, or I guess guest hosts, don't you?
Yeah, on Sunday we have Michael W. Hall, the paranormal lawyer, who does that. Saturday nights we have tried a few people in there, but as for right now, it is a quiet time because I don't have time to do it. And it's really difficult to train hosts, man. It really is difficult to train hosts. You have to have the right person with the right commitment, with the right genre, because with what we do on Spaced Out Radio, we're not a podcast. We are a live radio show that goes live to tape, which turns into a podcast. So it's a little bit different. It's more journalistic, and you have to find the right people in order to fill in those shoes. So there have been people in there who haven't been able to handle it. There have been people in there who just did not bring what we felt was what we wanted to represent. And finally, I just kind of got fed up because I knew that I was having to sit at times in my studio and listen to whomever the weekend host was, just to make sure there was, they were timing out properly, or going to commercial properly, or saying the proper things, or not saying things that shouldn't be said, or whatever. And it's a tough gig. It's a very tough gig. It's a tough commitment to do a weekend show, because guests are hard to find, because they want to spend their weekends ghost hunting or looking for UFOs or doing family things, and it's just a tough time slot. So we've decided to shut the Saturday down for now. But if the right person came along with the right commitment, we would definitely look at opening that up again.
Well, that's pretty awesome, man. Hopefully you find the right guy and you can get back on Saturdays. Now, you do have a studio remodel coming up, right? You want to tell everybody about that? So people that are
we're going to be redoing the studio. One thing that we're noticing is, ever since we kind of expanded our coverage onto our YouTube channel live, which is youtube.com/spaced out radio, there's a lot of people out there who want more video type coverage. And so what we need to do, every couple of years, the studio has been sitting the same for over 2.5 years. And, technology gets a little newer. And so we're going to be upgrading everything, because once this COVID thing ends, and once people start getting back to normal, whether it's in 3 months from now, whether it's in a year to 2 years from now, hopefully it's not that long, there's going to be people looking for programming. There's going to be people looking for ways to pick our show up. And one of the things, until we get to that point back again, one of the things that we need to do is we need to concentrate on YouTube and doing a lot more with our channel there. And so that's kind of why we're having to redo the entire studio, is because we have to make it more camera friendly. We have to make it more advanced, so that way we can focus on doing more television type of recording. And it looks like that's what people want. And when the public wants that, they're going to support it. And since we started going on YouTube and playing the show live on YouTube, our listener increase has increased immensely. And so it's just another genre to help make us a little bit more publicly aware to the public that we're out there, and that we're a great option for people who are looking for nighttime radio. And so far it's worked. So we just got to make sure that we're sticking with the trends and doing what people are doing too. The only downfall to it is me, because I'm not that technically savvy when it comes to things like YouTube, but we'll figure it out. We always do.
Yeah, my wife and I watch you every night on the Roku device, and it's pretty awesome because we'll be flipping through the channels or whatnot, on our television, and flipping through the different apps on the Roku, and we'll get you. We'll see that you're on, and there's nothing else on, or our shows aren't on, or we're not binge watching a show at that time or something, and we'll just put you on. I love watching you on YouTube because you get to have a little bit of more interaction while the breaks are going on. Even after the show is over, you'll stick around and kind of hang out, chatting with all the YouTubers, and we love that part of the show. Honestly, it's, a lot of that.
Well, thank you.
A lot of that's more fun than the actual show itself.
Yeah, you know what? The one thing that what I try and do is try and make it an experience. Now, usually after the show, what I'm doing is I'm editing the program to send it out to a couple of our radio stations that carry our show. And, I used to end the broadcast thinking, oh, my goodness, like I'm going to be doing all of this editing here, and I got to get that done. And then all of a sudden I just kind of woke up one day and I was like, well, why do I have to kill the feed? These people want to hang out. They want to chat. Let's just go with it. It's pretty boring, in my opinion, but people love it. They stick around. I don't know why, but they just do.
It's pretty awesome. Now, I've discovered since I started hosting Conflict Radio that we have had so many different guests on and so many different topics that a lot of things that you thought were reality in my mind, my mind has been changed a lot, and I've learned so much doing my own podcast that I wanted to get you on and ask you. Now, when you went into your show, I'm sure you had a lot of beliefs and a lot of things that, you thought were true or weren't true, ancient civilizations or whatever, that sort of thing. And I wanted to ask you, how have your beliefs changed by just having your own podcast and talking to all these different people?
The biggest change that I have noticed, and this is actually a good question. I've never been asked this one. Okay, the biggest change that I have noticed is the fact that there is no end to the rabbit hole. When you jump into the rabbit hole, and this is the way I explain it to my listeners, it's like walking through a door. And then when you open that door and you walk in and you look in front of you, there's 10 more doors. And you go to that first door of those 10, you open it, and you realize there's 10 more doors behind that. So you go back, you go to the second door, there's 10 more doors behind that second door. And it just seems like every time you open a door and you think you're close to solving something or getting close to an answer, it's not there. Or you hit a dead end or a brick wall or whatever you want to call it. And it just never seems to end. It's a never-ending cycle of information. And you got to realize, people who are researching these, there's a lot of brilliant people out there researching these topics. They are just as stumped and confused as the rest of us. They just may be further ahead where they've been able to narrow it down a little bit more than, say, somebody like you or me. And that's why we bring them on as guests for radio shows, podcasts, and whatever. Because we're trying to be able to learn what are they researching, how are they finding answers when I am not. And that's probably been the most confusing part of this all for me, is just realizing that the doors never end. And every time you open a new door, you realize, well, there's 35 other doors that I've opened that I haven't even looked into yet, or even scratch the surface. Which one do I go down? How much time do I spend on each one? And it's just a big ball of confusion. It's a lot of fun. I'm not going to deny that. It is a lot of fun. But, it's something that you would think at some point there would be an end result. Yet we are in the field where there are no endings. There is no end result. And sometimes it's frustrating. Sometimes it's absolutely maddening. Sometimes you get so pissed off, you don't want to take that route anymore. And you just kind of just choose the path that's most suited to what you enjoy. And that's kind of what I do now. I love everything about this field. I love the paranormal. I love UFOs. I love cryptids, but there's a lot about this field I've learned to hate as well. And I know hate is a strong word, and I should use the word dislike, but there's a lot of stuff about this field that I find very uncomfortable, that I find unsettling, that I find, disturbing. But when I look at it, it's not so much the research end of it, it's the people involved. It's the way people cut each other down. And so, we could spend 2.5, 3 hours talking about that alone, but it's probably the amount of doors that open that is the most, or the biggest conundrum for me.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that surprised me was that I started to realize how everything is connected. It's all
Yes.
connected to the same thing. And I think that that's what shocked me. Like, I never thought that, ghosts and aliens could kind of fall into the same realm of possibilities, but the longer you do things and the more I talk to people, it just seems like it's all connected. It's all connected to one
Yeah,
one
that,
thing.
what, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's probably one of the other things that I have noticed as well. And, this is where you also see the maturity and the talent of the researchers separate themselves from what I like to call the weekend warriors, the people who are doing this on a daily basis, trying to solve the mysteries. I think of people like David Weatherly and Micah Hanks and Timothy Renner and Ross Allison and David Spinks. You know, the one thing that they have commonality with, okay, is the fact that they have really, really been open to the fact that there are ties between everything. Why does somebody have a Bigfoot encounter and a week later they've got UFOs flying over their house? You know, which they've never seen before or had that experience before. Or maybe all of a sudden, you know, they have a weird precognitive dream, and the next thing you know, they walk into a forest and there's an alien standing there, right? I mean, these are all instances that people are having. And, you know, if more researchers took the time to realize that there seems to be this invisible string that sews everything together, imagine how much further ahead we would be in this research. It's unfathomable, okay? You know, the possibilities are right there to grab. Now, we may not have the answers, we may not have the solutions, but I think we would be way further ahead if we paid attention to that.
Yeah, you know, another thing that I think is slowing us down is the constant infighting. You know, there's so much infighting between a lot of groups, and you know, I think that that's slowing down a lot of the research too. You know, and I think it's turned into, you know, people. There are certain researchers out there that get so set in their way and their answer that they refuse to listen to any other ideas or possibilities about it. What do you think about that?
There's a lot of ego in this field. It doesn't matter whether you're podcasting, ghost hunting, UFOs, there's a lot of ego. Everybody wants to be the man or the woman or whatever they want to be. Okay, everybody wants to be the leader, the one that gets invited to the conferences, one who gets invited onto television shows. And it's unfortunate. It really is. You know, it's like my Facebook group is bigger than yours. Who cares? You know what? Here's what I always tell people, and I was talking to a good buddy of mine, Merle, about this from Paranormal Road Trippers. He comes on for Ghosts of the Great White North once a month with me. And we were talking about this the other night. And I said to him, I said, you know, you don't see the bigger named people worried about how many followers they have on social media, worried about how many people are participating in their group, worried about whether or not they're going to get a conference call or not. You know, the real researchers in this field, okay, they don't care. And if anybody out there who's a ghost hunter or has a UFO group or whatever, please take this as God's honest truth. Your group size means nothing. Your team size means nothing. Your team rules mean nothing. Your research means nothing. Okay? Now, I know that sounds really crass and really vicious and mean, and I don't mean it that way. What I'm trying to say is when you are doing the proper research, or the people who, in my opinion, after being in this for 5.5 years, okay, and getting very close to these people and talking to them at conferences and talking to them off the air on phone calls, the one thing that they all say to me is, I don't have time for Facebook. I don't have time for Twitter. I don't have time. I'm busy writing books. I'm busy researching the UFO phenomena. I'm busy talking to people who are giving me information. Okay? That's why, you know, when you go to a conference, you know, almost every UFO conference, that's a big one, Richard Dolan is there. Richard Dolan is probably the epitome of all of this, because he doesn't have time to worry about what is happening on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Okay, he doesn't have time to worry about whether or not, you know, you believe that psychics should be used. The real researchers out there, they never have an answer, they never say no to anything, and they don't worry about the social media. Now, the people who are, well, maybe they need a little bit of drama in their life. I don't know. We try and stay away from that with what I do, but it's cutthroat. Everybody wants information. Everybody wants to be able to try and be the one who breaks a story or gets that information, or tries to hammer someone down because their thought process or their information doesn't coagulate with another person's. It's ridiculous, and for anybody to say they have the answers and they have the 100% proof, that's immediate for me to say, yeah, I really don't think that we should be talking.
Yeah. And I think that, a lot of this is pointing towards a evolution of our consciousness. And I think that us as humans being nicer to each other is part of that evolution. And to be tearing down our peers probably isn't something that we should be engaged in.
Well, absolutely. And like, let's take the ghost hunting crowd for a minute, okay? There are some brilliant people in this field, okay? Brilliant people, okay? But you have these groups out there that are trying to get museums and bars and buildings to sign contracts that they're the only ghost team that can go in there and investigate. Okay, why are you doing this? Okay, what is the purpose of this? Nobody's going to contaminate your site, all right? It's garbage, right? And when we get out of that petty stuff, how are we supposed to find answers if we are trying to backstab one another? It doesn't work. So why are you ghost hunting? Are you ghost hunting to try and lock down locations, take over a province or a state? What are you doing? Okay, the problem is nobody in this field, or I shouldn't say nobody, that's wrong. Very few in this field actually have the focus and the tenacity and the desire to actually try and find answers. I'll give you a little challenge. The next time you have somebody on here who's from a ghost hunting team, okay?
All right.
I want you to do this. Ask them what they do with the evidence. Okay, and then they'll say, well, we collect it, we go through it. Great, what do you do with it afterwards? Well, what do you mean? What do you do with your evidence afterwards? Well, we store it. Well, what are you storing it for? Because if you are conducting and I'm not a scientist, okay, but I know enough scientists in this field to understand science a little bit better than from my high school days. Okay, and the one thing that I have learned is in science you need a conclusion. In ghost hunting, very rare do we have any team out there posing any type of conclusions. Okay, and the fact that they will do by any means necessary to get a result. Okay, so if I invite you into my house because I don't know any better, and I found you on Google and you're the team closest to me, I know nothing about you. I know nothing of whether or not you're going to stir things up in my house, make life worse. I've heard people talk about this, okay, where, yeah, I didn't know where to turn. My house was haunted. I invited this team in. They said a bunch of stuff. They stirred things up, and my house all of a sudden was worse. We started getting attacked worse than what we were before. I didn't know what to do. Ghost hunting, to me, is out of control. It's the worst of the three fields if you include UFOs and cryptids. And you know why? You don't need an education to do it. That's the hard part. You don't need an education to do it. And with the way everybody is getting television shows these days, that's what everybody has on their mind. There is no schooling for it. There is no understanding of how to ghost hunt. What do you do? What don't you do? There's been some brave souls out there who've tried to teach people, but they've all fallen flat on their face to the point where they just don't even try anymore because people don't listen. So, I mean, the ghost hunting side to me has become very bitter, and it shouldn't be that way. We should be working together. What is your ultimate goal? Like, for instance, if I was a ghost hunter, my ultimate goal would be this: I want to know if there's life after death. That is my goal. Why? because personally, I'm scared of dying. Okay, I don't want to die. I kind of like this planet. I like walking on my patio and seeing the surrounding of 50, 60-foot trees all around me. All right. I like watching birds fly. I like mowing my lawn. I like spending time with my family. I like doing my job. Right?
Yeah.
So for me, I know that death is inevitable. Okay? It's going to happen to each and every one of us. We don't know when, but it will happen. So wouldn't it be nice to know and to confirm that there actually is life after death? I would like to know. And I'm sure many of your listeners would like to know. But the problem that we have in the ghost hunting field is that very few are actually trying to solve any answers. And why is that? Because the majority of them are there for the thrill. They're there to get scared. They're there to prove or disprove whether or not a location is haunted. They're there to do the tourism stuff. Why? It's selfish. We have the ability to solve the biggest mystery in life's equation, and we're not even doing it. We just want somebody to go boo in front of us and scare us, or catch that orb or that shadow on video, or catch that voice, that screams at us on an EVP. Is it exciting? Oh, hell yeah, it is. It's completely exciting, right? I like the rush, but I want to know what's going on. I want to know, why are you here? Why are you still here? Is there life on the other side? What's it like where you are? Right? What do you see? What do you know? What do you get to do? Where can you travel to? Do you even know you're dead?
Yeah,
that's what
we
need to be doing. That's what we need to be doing. But we become so narrow-minded that it's more fun to backstab the way teams are going. Like, I don't bring on a lot of paranormal teams on my show, and I've listened to a number of paranormal podcasts. It always comes out, well, what kind of gear do you use? Oh, you use a K2 meter? Yeah, we don't use those. We found them very untrustworthy. Who cares? If it works for somebody else, but it doesn't work for you, guess what? I play hockey. I shoot right-handed. I can't shoot left-handed. Does it mean that shooting left-handed for people doesn't work? No. Because there's many talented left-handed hockey players or left-handed baseball players out there. They're not just right-handers. But we've become accustomed to griping and bitching and moaning about absolutely everything, in the field, but there's no way we're ever going to solve anything. This is why I hang out and we do a lot more UFO stuff on Spaced Out Radio, is because at least with UFOs, it looks like we're getting closer to a conclusion. We want answers. We're getting closer to those answers. That's exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. What do you think is going to happen with UFOs? You think disclosure's coming?
I don't know. I think the stronger question is whether or not mankind is ready for disclosure. There's a lot of brave people out there who will say, bring it on. Society can handle aliens. Really? Really? A sickness called COVID-19 wrapped itself around the world, and what did we do? We hoarded toilet paper. Okay, we went to the store. We tried. We went and grabbed hand sanitizer, then tried to sell it on Amazon for 800 times its value. Are we really ready for aliens?
Well, not only that, but I think once it all runs together. Once we see one thing, we'll see it all.
It could very well. But, I think that when it comes down to the whole disclosure movement in UFOs, I think the biggest argument that is out there right now is whether or not the public will be able to handle it. And how does the public handle it? Okay, will it cause an economic collapse? Will it cause mass suicides? Will it cause religion to collapse? Where are these creatures coming from? Are they coming from an interstellar area within our own solar system? Are they coming from outside our solar system? Does it include multi-dimensional beings Interdimensional beings? Are they time travelers from the future? Is that the future us? Right? There's so many questions that we don't have answers for. Okay, like I often think about, like when the show signs off, I often think about this, man. I often think about, are time travelers here? Are they walking amongst us and we don't even know?
Well,
Think about that.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of shows you could do on examples of that.
Well, I mean, a lot of those have been debunked. But when you think about it, I often think, am I, as Dave Scott, how many different dimensions am I in? Or you? How many different dimensions are we right now doing this show? Now, that may sound crazy. It may sound hokey to a lot of people. A lot of people may be eye-rolling as I say that. But these are the questions that I have, right? Like I said right at the beginning about opening the doors. Which door is correct? Which door is a facade? Which door is a dead end? Right? And these are the questions that a lot of people want to answer or are trying to answer. Can we get there? I don't know. But getting back to the whole disclosure side, I think there's some real dangers to it right now. All right. I believe that there is a real narrative that is trying to be pushed. I don't like that narrative. I don't think that the mainstream media fully understands or comprehends how to cover this subject, because for so many years and decades they have made fun of people who have had UFO and extraterrestrial experiences, and now the media has been caught with their pants down, and they don't know how to cover the story. I often wonder, and lately, probably the last month, I have been having serious contemplation about, for years, UFO researchers have been saying, we can't trust the spooks. We can't trust the government agents, to tell us the truth about this subject. So the To the Stars Academy comes along, and they've done some fantastic work. Okay, but guess what? The majority of them are all ex-spooks and government employees. And now they're saying, trust us. We have the public's best interest in mind when it comes to UFOs. How do I trust you?
Yeah, and what is the public's best interest?
Exactly. We're already seeing the game plan. Okay, you go on any newscast who does a story about this, what do you see? You see the same three videos, the Tic Tac, the gimbal, and the Go Fast. You see either the following people: David Fravor, the pilot who intercepted the Tic Tac back in 2004. You see Luis Elizondo, the man who ran the program. You see Chris Mellon, the guy who was assistant DIA, okay, under two different presidents. You see Nick Pope, okay, former Ministry of Defense of Britain in the UFO program there. And you see Harry Reid, the former Nevada senator. Where's Richard Dolan? Where's Grant Cameron? Where's Linda Moulton Howe? Where's Melinda Leslie? Where's David Weatherly? Where's John Tenney? Where's all of these people who have spent their lifetime trying to figure out the mysteries of this subject? You know why they're not interviewed? Two reasons. Number one, the media doesn't know who they are because they've never paid attention to this subject. The mainstream media, that is. And number two, the media loves easy answers when they do not understand a story or they don't know how to cover a story. So when CNN or Fox News or the New York Times are handed Luis Elizondo or Nick Pope, okay, that's where all of a sudden we keep seeing the same people over and over again, because this certain group called the To the Stars Academy has made it easy for the mainstream media to interview these people. Okay, this is why the media hasn't gone into in-depth research and journalism, because they haven't had to. The story has already been given to them. I mean, here's a classic example. With everything that has gone on in ufology over the last couple of years, there has not been a single reporter asked about Roswell. There has not been a single reporter ask the President of the United States about the Phoenix Lights in 1997. Up here in Canada, where I am, here's the weird part. Okay, our news outlets will play the UFO story coming out of the U.S. They played the videos of Tic Tac Gimbal and Go Fast. But you know what? Not a single reporter has asked a Canadian politician about UFOs. What does Canada know? What is Canada's role? That's bad journalism. It's lazy journalism. They're not thinking. And that's the problem. We have a media who is not thinking on this subject because they've never taken it seriously. We have a group of people out there who are using the media for their own benefit to control the narrative, and a public who understands that UFOs could be real, but they don't really want to because it really takes away from Dancing with the Stars or The Voice or Major League Baseball or NFL or whatever other reality TV they're watching. And we have a UFO public who's like, damn it, just give me the answers. Tell me the aliens are here. Oh, but we're not allowed to talk aliens when it comes to UFOs. We've been told that. The narrative have said we're not allowed to use the word UFO. We have to use UAP or ATIP. This is where it's confusing. This is where we are seeing a narrative being played right in front of us, and we're doing nothing about it.
Yeah, it just seems like more and more the news media isn't really, they don't really do any research anymore. It's just the same talking points over and over and over again, and it all comes from the same source.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Like if I were to do my own research on something, I might actually, have to go to something other than Fox News or CNN to, just push their talking point.
Absolutely. Wouldn't it be nice to see the old-fashioned Larry King style of roundtable? Remember back in the days when CNN was actually good broadcasting? They had Larry King on there, and he would come in and he would have a panel, and he'd have the expert on topic XYZ, and he would have the critic of XYZ, and they'd go at it on the television. And Larry, being the journalist that he was, would ask some very pointed questions. All right? To both of them. We don't get that anymore, because wouldn't you just love to see, it doesn't matter the media outlet, okay? Whether it's CNN, Fox, or whomever, NBC, ABC, CBS, wouldn't you love to see a Larry King-style panel show up where you have Luis Elizondo, you have Harry Reid, you have Richard Dolan, you have Grant Cameron, maybe Steve Bassett, okay, or somebody along those lines. So that way we could actually have a true point-counterpoint. I'm not saying the Seth Stoshaks of the world or the Joe Nichols, whose only job is to try and debunk everything. I mean, these are the type of people who could have aliens standing right in front of them, and they would say that they don't exist. I'm not saying that type of critical skepticism, but let's have an open debate about these topics. There's a lot of questions that have not been answered by people like Elizondo. There's a lot of questions that haven't been answered to Harry Reid. Why? Because they are controlling who they talk to. They're controlling it because they don't want the hard questions. They want to be able to control the narrative. Is that a bad thing for what they're doing? No. For the public, I think it is.
Yeah, and a lot of the problem too, I think, is that that so many of these media companies are owned by the same one parent company.
I don't put as much stock into that as I do the fact that there is a lot of how can I put this? Okay, I'm going to put this in a way that I understand it, okay? I used to be a sports reporter, which means, when you're watching the sports highlights on ESPN or something along those lines, you see all the microphones that are shoved in front of an athlete's face. Okay, that's what I used to do. All right? and I had a blast doing it. Okay, but you know what? I hate soccer. I cannot stand soccer. And when my boss would send me and say, you got to cover a Vancouver Whitecaps game, or the Canadian women's soccer team is practicing in Vancouver today, I need you to go cover it. I would grate my teeth. I would throw a 3-year-old type of tantrum. But hey, that's my job. It can't always be, roses and blue skies. Not like that at all. Okay? So what would happen was I would go there. I would cover the Whitecaps game, or I would cover the soccer practice. Because I didn't want to be there, I would ask what we call softball questions. Well, you had a high-scoring game of 1-0 tonight. You know that you were victorious. Joe Smith, please tell us about the goal that you scored. How important was it to get this victory? How do you build a winning streak out of this? How was the team's defense tonight? Now, they're all questions that need to be asked, but you see what I'm saying about softball questions? I'm not interested in getting in depth with about, anything like that, because I didn't want to be there.
Yeah, your heart wasn't in it.
My heart wasn't in it. That's how the media is with UFOs. That's what the mainstream has to change. So what happens is, if all of a sudden I give you all the information that you need and everything that you need to study and ask and all this, and I give you all the answers, and I say, hey, don't worry about it. I got you covered, man. Guess what? Makes it easier. You don't have to do the research because somebody, like the To the Stars Academy, has already provided everything for me. I don't need to research the topic. They've already done it. They've provided it to us.
Yeah.
See the danger?
Yeah, unfortunately, that happens with pretty much every story that's going on anymore today.
Absolutely. We're more worried about, if you take television, we're more worried about what a person looks like on television than we are about their actual journalism and their journalistic integrity to bring the public the point and counterpoint to absolutely every story. The disgusting nature of it is looking at the political side. Journalism and news outlets should not choose political sides. All right? Their job is to be the eyes, ears, the police, the judge, jury, and executioner for the public. It's not to sway the public, saying we're a conservative television station, so we're going to promote only conservative type and Republican type of reporting. Or we're only Democrats, so your president's an idiot, and you should listen to us because we're going to tell you how much your president is an idiot. Do you see where I'm going with that? That's not journalism. That's making people choose sides. Call it down the middle. It's disgusting. It's unfortunate that such a beautiful career has gone that way. But you know what? They haven't, as long as the ratings are there, they're going to keep doing what they're doing. So the public is at fault because the public watches it, which provides ratings, which sells commercial advertising, which makes the television company money. That's how it works.
Yeah, or we're only going to cover this story because we believe this certain thing, or we're only going to, cover that story because we believe in that, and ignore everything that we don't believe in. Oh, well, that's a conspiracy, or that's a hoax.
Absolutely.
Just because I don't believe it personally.
Absolutely. Exactly. They don't care. They don't care. It's all about emotional reaction now. What can fit in 180 words on Twitter?
How does it fix itself?
There would have to be a law mandated by the government to make journalists and journalistic outlets, whether they're television, radio, internet, newspaper, they would have to bring them in a law that shows balanced reporting on subjects. That's the only way. Because the outlets are not going to do that.
Yeah. So let's switch. Yeah, let's switch gears a little bit. Let's kind of get off of that, and I want to talk about your personal UFO experiences. I mean, you obviously believe. You're a believer, right?
Absolutely.
And I know I've done some homework on you and realized that I actually found this out earlier today when I was doing my homework on you that you are an abductee,
I guess you could call me that.
or you think you were. Now, let me run this story by you because this is something that has always bothered me, and it's kind of the reason why I became curious in the subject. I believe that I was abducted back in '96, and I'll give you my experience, and I'll just say it real quick because a lot of my listeners already have heard this, but you haven't, so I want to tell you, and I want to get your idea of it, and then I want to hear your story. And what happened to me was, I just went to bed like a normal person goes to bed, and I found myself. Excuse me, I had to cough, so I turned the mic down for a second. I found myself. I was in a. It was a white. It was like a white area, and I saw shadows of beings. Like they were beings, but they were shadows, and I just absolutely knew that I was in this horrible situation, and it seemed like hours and hours that I was trying to wake up. I'm in a dream. I'm dreaming this. Is what I'm thinking. I need to wake up, and I can't wake up. And when I finally did wake up, I mean, and this was a horrible experience. It wasn't any fun at all. When I finally did wake up, it was like 2 in the afternoon. I'd been sleeping for like 18 hours, and I was exhausted. I was so tired that I literally was up for a few hours and then had to go back to bed again because I was so tired from sleeping. And I believe that I was experimented on. I believe that something had happened to me that wasn't normal. I don't believe. My wife likes to say, "Oh, well, you were lucid dreaming or you were sleep paralysis, this, that, and another thing." I don't think that that was the case at all. And I heard you today talking on a show about your experience, and I couldn't help but notice it was kind of similar. And I was wondering if you could, what do you think of that? And could you also tell us your experience?
Well, I think there's a very good chance that something abnormal did happen to you. I mean, a lot of people have experienced what you claim, and you know, um, a lot of people have had really interesting things happen. A lot of people have had good things happen. A lot of people have been having absolutely nightmarish type of experiences. Personally, I would say that you had something very extraordinary happen. That just is something that the white room. I've seen the white room. My first experience was in a white room, and it's eerie. Now, I didn't see shadows or anything like that, and what I always like to say, when I was put in that white room, I heard a voice. I knew it was a male voice, and I knew that this was something that I was in some place that, to this day, do I know if I was there or if it was a dream? No, no. But the only thing I have that kind of confirms that I wasn't in a dream state was the fact that I had so many other following up experiences that really were uncomfortable or very curious or very much hard to understand and comprehend. So, I mean, when I look at it all, when I hear what you guys or what you've gone through, my first inclination is to say that you had a pretty extraordinary experience that really needs to be addressed. And I don't think it was a lucid dream. Now, that being said, you were asking about my own personal situation. You know, when mine started in 2014,
Were you
where
sleeping?
um, well, I went to bed and I ended up going and having that being put in that white room, and I was pretty much told that that I wasn't supposed to do a lot of research, that I was supposed to uh, that I wasn't supposed to, uh, um, you know, I was supposed to just let it happen, relax, chill out, and see where it goes, right? And then 3 weeks later, I was at a friend's house where a lot of my experiences happened. And I showed up there, and I had as I was driving there from out of town, I had a migraine pop up, and excuse me, and I realized that after a while that it wasn't really a migraine, but it was actually shapes pulsating in my head. And I was all of a sudden called outside. It was about 10 o'clock at night. Walk outside into their back field, and had a real weird feeling that something was there. And I asked if it could show me where it was. And 150 yards away from me on the ground was the same white light that lit up the entire tree line in the area. Okay, now I'm not saying this wasn't in a subdivision. This was in the backwoods on top of a mountain in the forest in behind the houses. There was only 2 houses on the street. My friend had 10 acres. Their neighbor had 6.5 acres. The neighbors were the type of people. They were elderly. They would go to bed pretty early, like before 9 o'clock. And, their backfield lit up on my command 3 times. And 5 days later, I end up going back to the farm. I meet a young lady that day named Samantha, who is a lifelong ET contactee and a very, very good friend of mine. And she 25 minutes after meeting her and I walk back into the forest, and I see at 2 o'clock in the afternoon an extraterrestrial, 10 to 12 feet tall, standing there in the forest staring back at me. I mean, it happened so quick that it was just phenomenal. And, that all of a sudden started leading to me being an abductee, because a few months later, I was taken. I woke up on the table, and I saw the 3 little gray dudes, trying to cut open the back of my scalp. And it hurt. And, and it went from absolute sheer pain and panic to absolutely feeling like it was tickling. And it was weird. I still don't understand it. And I've had other experiences like that as well. So you really try and bring it all into focus, because, look, I try and be as skeptical as I can with my own experiences. I don't want to believe everything that I believe has happened to me, but I have no proof. Now, people, when it comes to proof, will say, well, did you get any video of the alien in the forest? No. Well, why didn't you? Why didn't you pull out your phone and start videoing? Because when you have something that extraordinary happen to you, and you are trying to comprehend something that your eyes are seeing that your brain doesn't fully understand, the last thing you're like is, hey, do you mind if I grab a photo?
Yeah.
Right? You're in shock. You're in awe. It's almost like, remember the olden day horror movies where you would see people, you'd be like, just run, dude, run. But they stand there and they take it. The next thing you know, they're dead. It's like that. When you have something that extraordinary happening that is not supposed to exist, and it's happening before your very eyes, you want to soak it all in. You want to know the feeling of the temperature. You want to know, what were the trees doing? What color was this thing? How big was it? What was it doing? What was your role in this? Why you? Why was all of this thing happening? So, I mean, there's all these questions. The last thing you remember is that, oh, by the way, hold on a second here, Mr. Alien in the forest, or Mr. Bigfoot in the forest. I'm just going to grab my phone, and I'm going to, just grab a quick video or a quick selfie with you, if you don't mind.
Yeah. I need proof of this. Hold on a
Yeah,
second. You're busy trying to comprehend exactly what's going on.
exactly.
Do you think that the U.S., or any government for that matter, knows for sure what's happening, or do you think that they're just as lost as everybody else?
Well, if we take the United States government, for instance, I believe there is a faction that knows exactly what is going on. exactly what is going on. And I don't believe for a second that they are as stunned by these anomalies as they lead it on to be. I also do believe that there is a faction of the government that doesn't want this to happen. They don't want to have admittance to all of this stuff that is going on because of the religious context of everything. Religion, whether we want to admit it or not, whether you're atheist or whether you're Catholic or anything in between, all right, religion plays a huge role in this. Okay, and I'm not going to sit here and bash religion. I'm not going to sit here and bash the atheists or whatever.
Well, it's a form of control.
Well, I mean, there's ways to look at that, right? Other people will say it saved my life, right? I mean, I'm not here to bash or anything along those lines. What I am here to say is, you know, that if there's a lot of people out there who believe that anything extraterrestrial is demonic because they've read it and the way they've been prophesized about it by religious leaders is that biblically speaking, anything coming out of the sky that isn't earthbound is likely of some sort of demonic or devious background. And I don't believe that for a second. Like I'm a God guy. Okay, I don't go to church, but I have a strong belief in God and everything like that. Okay, and you know, as I say to a lot of religious people when this subject comes up, I said, okay, can we agree that God is Alpha and Omega? Oh yeah, absolutely. Okay, I said, great. We can agree that God made the universe and created everything. Yes, absolutely. Okay, fantastic. We've also, will you agree with me that science has proven that as of right now, the universe is infinite. We don't know where the beginning is. We don't know where the end is. We only know that there's a bunch of stuff out there that our telescopes have been able to find. Yes, absolutely. Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay, so now that we're making progress, if we know the universe is infinite, we found planets out there that actually look like Earth. Isn't it a little naive to say that we're the only life form out there?
Well, I mean, it's not only naive, but it's what's the word? It's a little, I don't know, what's the word? It's just a little selfish.
Absolutely it is.
You know, like, oh,
Absolutely it is.
it's all about Earth, or it's all about us.
But that's what I'm saying. Okay, is there's a faction of the government that believes that there is a high portion of danger out there for this. Okay, there's a high portion of people who do not want this story. There's a high portion of people out there who do not want this to come to fruition for their own fears. Okay, we also have to look at it too. Okay, and this is where it gets back to what I said earlier about reporters and journalists asking about Roswell. Okay, we know for the last 70 years things have been covered up. That's recent history. Okay, I'm not getting into all the ancient aliens BS, you know, that the pyramids were built by aliens and look at the hieroglyphics or anything, because that could be debated. We don't know what they meant. All right, but let's take the last 70 years. All right. The last 70 years shows there's a lot of evidence out there that we really, really mean that we need to figure out. There's a lot of questions out there that we need to have answers to. There's a lot of questions out there that we need to be looking into as to whether or not this is good for humankind. All right? When we start figuring that stuff out, we might get closer to finding out the answers. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Right now, we're not there. Right now, we are not there whatsoever. We're more interested in trying to play the aliens are evil garbage. We're more interested in trying to play the role of you know, trying to scare people. Right? That's what we're interested in doing right now. We're not interested in moving forward and trying to understand that there is a large portion of the population, 84% of all abductees who have had experiences who claim that they have had a positive experience. We don't want that because positivity does not sell. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. It's all scary, doom and gloom.
Absolutely. Fear sells. Fear creates budgets. Fear creates a lot of interesting stuff.
Are you a Star Trek fan?
I've never watched a single episode.
I always have been curious if Gene Roddenberry was perhaps offered a glimpse into the future of humanity and seen, and that's what Star Trek is, more like a what will be in the future one day, with all the
Could,
different races and technology and everything.
could very well be. Could very well be.
Do you think
It's
that there's a
interesting.
do you think that there is a higher consciousness human I guess population out there in the world that's keeping us, the minions, sort of suppressed, our consciousness suppressed on purpose?
That is a very solid question, and I don't know. I really do not know whether or not that is actually happening. I would like to think that there isn't. However, I'm not. See, this opens up the doors to the Bilderbergs, the Illuminati, and
Exactly,
all of
yeah.
the stuff that we know nothing about. Nothing about. And this is where the topic gets a little bit dangerous, because then you start going down the road of people like David Icke and David Wilcock and Corey Goode and Alfred Lambermont Weber, who have pushed things so far off the deep end and they have a following that will follow and preach and share on social media those same words, okay, that it gets a little scary. It totally gets a little scary in trying to figure out what is real and what is not. I don't think there's enough evidence out there to show that, that Bill Gates is the second coming of demon spawn, or that there is this entire narrative out there that is pushing towards, killing off 85% of the planet's people, because the planet is not sustainable for this many people. There's not enough food. Really, my grocery store is always full as yours. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's where it gets a little sticky. So is there probably some people who want to get the information out there, or to try and control things? Probably. I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of ego in this world. And unfortunately, some people have through their business successes or whom they're born to, tend to feel that they're better than you, or they're better than me, or better than people in your public who are trying to because they have money, or they're into the billions, or whatever. Those people are out there. They absolutely are. But what we don't know is, are they really trying to kill off humanity? Are they really trying to do all of this stuff? That I don't know, right? I just don't know. And I'm not sure about. That's where I get confused.
Yeah. Well, you can definitely tell though that we are evolving as a species ourselves, with our I mean just with what we're able to do consciously and subconsciously, that it seems like we're evolving our consciousness.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, do we have a lot of growing up to do? Sure we do. Absolutely we do. And more people are starting to look within themselves, trying to figure out who they are. What's the meaning of all of this? And I think those questions are good. I really do. I would love to see more people do that, And the more questions we ask, eventually, because we are a curious species, eventually we may find the answers.
So you think you were chipped, right?
Yes.
What do you think the chip is doing? Do you think it's just? I mean, it just can't be a tracking device, right? I mean, do you think it's affecting how you think?
No, I don't know. I mean, I think for many people who have been chipped by extraterrestrials, I believe that They are some sort of tracker, much like a GPS type tracker, except it's a little bit more advanced than that. It probably fills you in on telling whatever it is that grabbed you that you're sitting there. How can I put this? That you're almost like they can read your thoughts, your mind, your inhibitions, your absolutely everything. I don't know.
Yeah.
I really don't know. I mean, this is where the studies of Dr. Roger Lear, when he would take these implants out, I mean, there was films of this where he would cut a person open to try and get this implant out. The implant would be moving to try and dodge from being removed. Like, what causes that? How does that happen? Is that our technology or is it someone else's? So, I mean, there's a lot of real interesting stuff that goes along with that.
Yeah, I actually believe I was chipped too back in '96, and you could tell. I mean, and if you've been chipped too, you know what I mean. You can tell it when it moves around. You could feel it almost moving around in your body by itself.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Like, oh, it's over. This is
A
where
lot
it
of
is
people
today,
experience
and
that.
and the next day, oh well, I know it's over here today. It'll actually move around, and I was taken again after that incident. I guess it was about 20 years after, and I know that one was removed. I don't know if they put in an upgrade or maybe they put in a different one. I have no idea. I haven't felt it since, but I know that one was actually taken out. They actually went back and took that one out. So, as weird as that sounds.
It's very interesting. And like I said, I don't know where it's going, what it's all about. The main thing is it's happening. We know it's happening. And we need to be able to, figure it out.
All right. So let's change subjects again because there's something else I want to talk to you about, and we're kind of running out of time. I guess we got about 20 minutes left or so. I heard you on an interview talking about seeing the angel of death in your mother's eyes, and they never followed up with you on that. So I'm going to. Could you tell us this story?
Sure. So my happily boring life ended on December 13th, 2011. And during that night, what we were doing was we were having a early Christmas dinner and family get together for my daughter, who was going away with her maternal grandparents on a Caribbean cruise that would have taken her away from home for Christmas and New Year's. And so we decided, instead of waiting until at the new year to have the celebration, we figured, what, we're done our Christmas shopping, let's just bring the family over, let's get her to hang out with the family. So we had about 25 people in our house that night. There was a Canucks game on television, and we had the dinner. She opened up all her presents and had a really good time. And so at about 7:45, I start cleaning up, my better half is, in the kitchen with her mom and my mom, and they're all doing dishes, and I'm kind of bringing dishes in and glasses in from the dining room and the living room, and my parents then announced that they were going to get going because Lord knows my parents cannot miss a night of Dancing with the Stars on television. As funny as that sounds, completely true. And so I put the glasses and the dishes that were in my hands, I put them on the dining room table, and then I was about to walk through the doorway that led to my kitchen where everybody was, because my kitchen was kind of into my television area, and that's where everybody had gathered watching the Canucks game and hanging on out. And so as I started to walk through that door where my mom was on the other side, I take a step over the line from the doorway from the dining room to my kitchen. And I realize that the sound on the TV is quiet. Everybody is stopped. And I look at my mom, and I have my arms open like I'm about to invite her in for a hug. And I look in her beautiful blue eyes and realize that her eyes are no longer blue. They are jet black with her pupils being white. And I just kind of stood there and looked, and I just was kind of shocked at what I was seeing, kind of like, am I really seeing this? And then all of a sudden my mother got this look on her face that was kind of like, oh, you see me. And then she shook her head. Her eyes came back blue. The sound on the television started. I could hear people talking again. And in the meantime, I was sick to my stomach, effective immediately, and I just wanted to cry. And so I walked really weirdly down to the hallway to our master bedroom. My better half follows, and she goes, "Is everything okay?" And I just knew, and I said, "I think I just saw the angel of death in my mother's eyes." And I'm almost crying and in tears here because I'm not ready to lose my mom. I don't think anybody ever is. And long story short, I gathered my composure. I walked to the front door, give my mom and dad a hug, walk them out, and was just kind of like, this is so weird. Like, I'm not getting this. Is this the last time I'm going to see my mother? Like, I really didn't know. And anyways, it continued on from there, where later that night, after everybody had left, I walked into the kitchen, and my better half says to me, what do you think it was you saw? And I'm like, I have no idea. No idea. She goes, well, let's go into the living room and just kind of, because she was into all this, meditation and stuff that I thought was complete BS at that time. She goes, let's just go into the living room and relax. And I said, okay. So she sits on the couch. I sit across from her on the love seat. There's a table in between, and she lights a couple of white candles. And she's like, why don't you just relax and tell me what you saw? So I did that. And next thing I know, I am channeling the angel of death. And the angel of death says I was not supposed to see him, but because I did, he felt he owed me an explanation. He told me that my mother, who is a 2-time cancer survivor, was in fact very, very ill, and that if we as a family did not start treating my mother with more love and respect, that he was going to take her home. He did not say heaven. He did not say hell. He just said, take her home. And I asked him, through me, how do I keep my mother alive? And he told me. And basically what he said was, you need to show more love. Call your mother, because I've never been a mama's boy. I've always been a daddy's boy. Even to this day, I'm a daddy's boy. I'm 47 years old, and my dad is my hero. My mom, I love my mom to pieces, but I'm a daddy's boy, not a mama's boy. Mm-hmm. And, I think as children, we all favored one parent over the other. And it sucks, but we do that. And so I immediately got on the phone. The angel of death told me, over the next few days, call my sisters, tell everybody what happened. So I did. I talked to my sisters. I talked to my grandmother. I did not talk to my dad about it because my dad is a real five senses kind of guy. And he would just, kind of be like, oh, whatever, you did not. I'd be like, Dad, why do you think I'm telling you this? I don't believe in that crap. Don't talk to me about that crap. Well, whatever. Okay, I don't have time to be made fun of either. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I ended up telling who I felt I could trust and who I could talk to, and that's what I did. And so as I went forward on that, I realized that, I think I had done enough. But now, 9 years later, my mother is still alive. My mother would have never been able, I think my mother may not have ever met my son if I didn't follow through on this. And it all seemed to work out. Right? But it was weird because that was the precursor to a lot of different a lot of different things happening. That was the precursor to a lot of different how can I put this? A lot of different scenarios that I'd never experienced in my life. Like all of a sudden, within a couple of days, our house became haunted. We started, hearing people walking up and down our stairs, and our girls started seeing things that, that weren't supposed to be there, but now they were. And it just got weird. Okay. It got really, really weird. And so that's what kind of kicked everything off. And then the more I started to look into it, a few months later, I met a gentleman named Pascal, who is a real hero of mine and a real mentor of mine. I met him, and he ended up really saying to me, how far down the rabbit hole do you want to go? And so I said, well, we might as well go the full way. We're here already. And he's like, okay, are you sure? And I said, yeah, let's do it. Well, we did it. And it got a little ridiculous, right? Yeah. It got a little ridiculous because all of a sudden I'm communicating, I'm channeling, I'm learning about all of this. And the more it happened, he'd be like, okay, well, what do you want to happen now? And I'd be like, well, I got this really weird feeling that in the next couple of months, I'm going to see Bigfoot. He goes, okay, which month? I said, July. Well, it didn't happen in July. It happened in September. Okay, so, it just seemed to open up a lot of stuff that wasn't there before. And I don't know why I was chosen. I don't know why this happened. I don't know why it put me on this journey. It has not been a fun or easy journey to go on. And for anybody who has not experienced anything out there, it's difficult, okay? You lose people that you care about because all of a sudden your closest friends in the world that you thought were, would be with you through thick and thin, all of a sudden they don't want to hang out with you anymore because guess what? You're the weird one. You believe in aliens. You believe in ghosts. You're saying you're talking to ghosts and all of this kind of stuff, right? And I lost a lot of friends that way. I really did. And it's been very tough. And this is why I said, like getting back to what I said right at the beginning of the show, I'm not sure that if I wasn't as naive as I thought, as I knowing now how naive I was when I started Spaced Out Radio, I don't know if I would do this again. I really don't. There's been a lot of heartache. There's been a lot of heartbreak. I've lost a lot of friendships. I've lost a lot of people that I trusted. And when I talk to other experiencers as well who've gone through this, they will say the exact same thing, that they haven't had a lot of fun. This hasn't been fun. It's been hard on them on a personal level. It's been hard on them on a spiritual level. Relationships that have always been there are now gone, right? And how do you recover from that? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. You don't. When your best friend of decades tells you to F off and hit the road and never talk to them again, what do? You love the person because they've always been there, but now you gotta go on and just respect what they want. You don't want to cause that argument. You don't want to cause that issue. You know what I'm saying? You're tired of pain. You're tired of, well, if you don't fit into my world, or if I'm disappointing you, I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah, you gotta live your life, right?
Absolutely. And sometimes it sucks. Sometimes it really sucks.
So were you a religious person growing up?
Only to the game of hockey.
So
my mother grew up in a very religious household, extreme religion. My father grew up as an altar boy in the church, but as they both grew away from the church, and we never went to church as kids, ever.
Right. So how does your realization of everything going on affected the way you think about, religion?
I have been able to draw a real strong line between religion and my spirituality.
Yeah. Well, when I
As I said,
say, yeah,
I am a very big believer in God. Okay, that's just for me. I don't preach that upon anybody. I am a believer in Jesus. Okay, because it makes sense to me. Okay, it's not that I want to believe or that I need to believe or have to believe. It's just what I feel is right for me. Now that being said, okay, there's a huge difference between religion, which is man-made, and something of a spiritual sense. Okay, I get more like when I walk into a church being empathic, I get more beat up by going to a church than I do walking into the forest and having my time where I could say, "Hey God, thank you so much for this. This look where I am. I'm standing in front of a 90-foot tree that's probably 200 years old. Okay, I'm standing here in this beautiful creation of yours you call a forest, and there's a stream running through. I get more spiritual enlightenment out of that than I do hearing somebody tell me that I'm everything I do, I'm going to hell. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. I mean, they don't know you.
They don't know me exactly.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I believe that there's something out there. Is it this religion? Is it that religion? I honestly think that they're all wrong, and that I'm right.
Oh, but you see, that's the beautiful part about it. We
Yeah,
don't need, I don't know if you're right. I don't know if I'm right.
yeah,
Well, I'll find out in the end. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. And it all comes down to our heart. What we are on the inside. That,
Absolutely,
and the only person that really knows who we are ourselves. You know,
absolutely,
so
absolutely.
maybe when it all comes down to it, the person that judges us is us.
I don't know. That's pretty
I mean,
deep. It's
there's
pretty deep.
no telling. You believe in reincarnation, Dave?
I think so. I think I'm leaning that way.
Yeah, it's
I did. I didn't for the longest time, but there's a lot of weird stories out there that have changed my opinion on that.
and that's another one of those beliefs that you change just from having a podcast
Exactly.
or a show. I don't mean to call your show a podcast.
No, that actually happened beforehand. My daughter, who is 21, she grew up with a young girl, and they were best friends starting in kindergarten. And her mom was telling me stories about how her daughter, from the time that she could speak, kept on talking about a ship and would cry about the ship broke, and it ended up being the Titanic. And to the point where the young girl said, my name used to be so and so. I forget the name now. And when they went to Las Vegas to actually look at the Titanic exhibit, imagine their surprise when the lady's name is on the list of people who died.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Right?
Now, what about any past? Have you had any recollection of any past lives that you know of?
No. No. I mean, I've had glimpses, but nothing that I would call confirming that makes me say, yes, I was a fighter pilot in World War II or something along those lines. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. When I was a kid, one of the hardest things I remember doing as a kid, and I remember how old I was. I guess I can't say I remember how old I was. I know how old I was now looking back because I know the years that we lived in this house. I was between this age and this age. So I know that, right around the time I was 2, 3 years old, I'd be laying in my bed and, getting ready to fall asleep, and I would hear, like, almost creating vibrations and headaches in my head, the sound of marching, like troops marching. So it just
Yeah.
seemed to me like I was a troop. I was, who knows for what, or, for what country, or, in what army, but I just remember just being scared to death, like oh my god, like not here again. I don't want to go back here again. And I just hear marching, in my head, and that always freaked me out a little bit. And then you start getting people on the show, that talk about reincarnation, and you're like, wow, maybe that's what I was having. Maybe that
I,
was my issue.
the ones that I really believe are the stories of children, because children are the most honest people out there. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah,
And so when I hear stories of children saying that, and there's a number of them you can find on YouTube or wherever, when you hear stories of these young children who are recalling. I mean, there's a number of stories out of India and Pakistan about where their religions believe heavily on reincarnation. You learn these stories about these children who claim to be murdered, and they have these weird birthmarks right where they were killed, whether it's a birthmark on their head or their torso or wherever. And the next thing you know, they're able to identify their killer. And people have been arrested over that. I mean, there's been killers over there that have been so freaked out by this that they've actually admitted, yes, I did kill this person, right? How does that child know? Especially if they haven't been exposed to the story. How do they know? Like my friend's daughter, she never exposed her to the Titanic until she started putting two and two together. Like, what is going on here? Why is my daughter at 2-3 years old talking about drowning and how cold the water was and watching a ship break at night? She should know that.
yeah. Those are definitely strange stories. Now, look, before we wrap up, I want to run a date by you, and I want you to
Sure,
tell us the first thing that pops into your head, when I tell you a date. All right, you ready?
sure.
December 13th, 2011.
Oh, yes, the angel of death. I will never forget that date, ever.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, man.
I'm glad we were able to get that story out. You want to tell everybody where they can find you?
Absolutely. You can follow us on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, on Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show. Our YouTube channel, if you want to subscribe, is youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. We're one of the only big name shows out there that keeps all of our podcasts for free. All right. And all of our archives are free. Our website is spacedoutradio.com. We're all over Facebook as well under Spaced Out Radio. So check us on out, and we always welcome new people in. We'd love to have everybody join us.
It's always a good time listening to your show, man. We really appreciate you coming on.
Really appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for allowing me the opportunity to speak with you.
Of course, and anything comes up, about things that you're doing or any changes in what's going on, we'd love to have you back in the future.
Absolutely. Keep me in touch, man. Thank you so much.
All right, everybody. That's Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back right after this. Welcome back to Conflict Radio. That was Dave Scott from Spaced Out Radio. I hope everybody can go over and check out his show. He's a fascinating person to talk to. Absolutely enjoyed our time speaking. Remember to like and subscribe to Conflict Radio Network on YouTube. You can also follow us on Spreaker or Apple iTunes, iHeartRadio, podcasts, and all of the normal podcast catchers. Be sure to check out our website, www.conflictradio.net. There's always a lot of fascinating things up there you can check out. You can always bookmark the site and check it often for our latest shows and what we've got going on as far as different things that you may find of interest. So be sure to check it out. We got a lot of neat things up there, and it's growing and growing every day. Well, that's going to about do it for us. We got through the show. There was a little bit of thunder in the beginning. I hope everybody heard it. It's always a great addition to the show when you can add a little thunder in the background. I guess we'll find out later on when I listen to the interview. I actually listened to it on YouTube from my Roku later on. It seems like doing the show and listening to the show are two totally different things. I'm sure Dave can attest to that. So, until Tuesday, I hope everybody battens down the hatches and stays safe.